Now we're going to discuss running the vessels, specifically the arteries, as part of our search pattern. And what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top, and because we do catch some of the pulmonary arteries, we're just going to look for a PE first. We're going to start by putting it on the abdominal window, which is what this is on. We're going to use the 2.5 millimeter cuts for this part of our search pattern on the axial, and then we have our coronal here to just kind of help us co-localize. Now we start with the abdominal window, but then we're going to do a little bit of manual tweaking of the window, and these are the sections of the pulmonary artery that we have, so we just want to kind of put it in a place where we can see filling defects relatively easily. So we'll just start on the right side and trace it out. We're looking here right now, and we'll come back and look at all the branches that we can find. Here we're looking at this branch that's coming off here. And then we can look at kind of this more anterior branch that we partially get a cut of. Just looking for filling defects in the arterial system. Make sure to not confuse the venous return, such as these vessels here that are coming back to the pulmonary vein on that side, with the pulmonary artery. And you can kind of use the coronal here as well too, which I think is helpful, just showing you that this is the pulmonary artery system, which is coming up higher from the scan and coming down low, instead of the veins that are coming back towards the heart. So the right side looks good. We'll go to the left side as well too, and just look at the pulmonary artery system that we see, looking for any filling defects. Doesn't look like there are any there. So we can kind of check off this part of our scan. But it's important to realize that we only look at very little of the pulmonary arteries because that's all we have. Now what we can do is go back to our abdominal window and just kind of orient ourselves. Again, this is the left ventricle. Here we have the aorta that's going to come out from it. We only catch a little bit of the aortic origin here. The bulk of what we're going to be able to appreciate with the aorta is with the descending aorta right here. So what we can do is, again, a little bit of manual adjustment just to kind of put things in our favor. And we'll start with the descending aorta right here and just follow it down. We're looking for things like atherosclerosis, like we see here. Also, we're looking for aneurysm or ulcerated plaque or dissection. And as we come down, we'll see that the celiac artery just comes off right here. A little bit of atherosclerosis near it. And it can be easy to be confused because the SMA is right below it, but we'll just kind of go back and forth. And here we see the celiac axis. And what's interesting is the left gastric is right here. If we go back and forth, we'll see that it just comes off first, and we can trace that left gastric down towards the stomach where it goes right there. Otherwise, the celiac axis, once we go back, we'll see that this is the common hepatic artery. This is the splenic artery, and this is going to take kind of a twisty course here. So what we can do is kind of scan back and forth and just trace it out as best as we can all the way to the splenic hilum. So it can be a little tricky, but it takes kind of this twisting course. You're just going to scan back and forth, just following it up here, and it's curving over, and you do want to trace it out to the spleen as best as you can. Similarly with the hepatic artery, what we're going to do is just try to follow it as best as we can. And as we follow it here, what we can see is that right around here, the GDA is going to come off right there, if you can appreciate that. And it's going to go down inferiorly. So that's our gastroduodenal artery that's going to come off. And after that point, we have the proper hepatic. And then here it gets a little tricky as well too, but it looks like right around here we split off to the right, our right hepatic and our left hepatics, and both of these go to perfuse, their respective portions of the liver. So we have the celiac trunk there. Now what we're going to do is going to go back to the aorta. This is the celiac origin. As we go a little bit lower, we're going to see that our SMA comes right off. A little bit of atherosclerotic plaque there, but that's okay. It doesn't seem to be occluding the actual artery. And now what we can do is we can kind of trace this out, and we can see that there are all of these branches that are coming off the SMA that are going to go to different parts of the GI tract. So the SMA is accounted for. We'll go back, and now at this point, it can be easy to forget, but we're going to have our renal arteries that are going to come off the aorta. Let's just start with the right side first. This is the renal artery coming off right there, a little bit of atherosclerosis, but we can trace it out all the way to the kidney here, just kind of going back and forth, and we can do the same thing on the left side. That's our left renal artery coming off right here, trace it to the kidney. Now as we go a little bit lower, we want to keep our eye out for the IMA, inferior mesenteric artery, which is going to come off right around there. It's just a smaller vessel right there. That's it. And we can follow that out to some of its branches as best as we can. And then we're going to get to the aortic bifurcation right there. So we can see how the aorta bifurcates into the right common iliac artery and the left common iliac artery, and we can trace each one respectively. So we'll start with the right side. It's going to turn into the internal and external. So there's the internal iliac artery, the external. We'll follow the external all the way until it basically becomes the common femoral artery right here. And then this is, of course, going to branch into the deep femoral artery, and either the femoral artery or the superficial femoral artery right there. So then what we can do is just come back and go all the way to the bifurcation and do the same thing on the left. So left common iliac, it's going to branch into the internal and external. The external is going to turn into the common femoral artery right around here. And then this is going to branch to the deep system right here, deep femoral artery, and then either femoral artery or superficial femoral artery. And now we've traced our arteries all the way from the top to the bottom, and we've gone down both, basically both lower extremity arteries to the best that we can visualize them on this scan.